Hey guys, I'm Sara Jane Ho and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So recently I did a video covering The One, which is a $500 million house in LA in Bel Air. Check it out if you haven't already. And it got me thinking about some of the cities around the world, and I've lived in some of the most expensive cities around the world, but only one is the most expensive. And I know that city well because it is my home, Hong Kong. So the average home in Hong Kong costs $1.5 million. Yes, you heard that right. That is the average home in Hong Kong. And that is twice as expensive as an average home in Paris, London, or New York. Three of the most expensive streets in the world are also in Hong Kong: POLLOCK'S Path, Mount Nicholson Road, and Mount Kellet Road. And they're all on the Peak. So let me tell you about the Peak. The Peak is like the Hollywood Hills. It's home to bankers, celebrities, and mainland Chinese billionaires. Of course, the Peak is also great for fitness enthusiasts who like hiking and running. You can think of it as kind of a mashup between Central Park and Beverly Hills. So back in the day, only Europeans or whites could live on the Peak, and the way they got up the Peak was by being carried in sedans by locals. Who would run all the way top. I mean, imagine how labor intensive that is. So the higher up you are, the more expensive the property is, as always. And at the very tip top of the Peak, there are a couple houses that can see water on both sides of the Peak. But usually you either see the harbor or you see the south side. So the south side of the island, which is more mountains. So now I'm gonna do a countdown to 10 of the most expensive real estate pieces in Hong Kong. Number 10. $66 million sold in 2015. The address is 53 STUBBS Road. It is STUBBS Road. It's not at the top of the Peak, but it's halfway up the Peak. It snakes up to the Peak. Opus Apartments, which is its name, is the most expensive apartment building in Asia. It was designed by Frank Gehry, who is one of the most important architects of our age. And this was actually Frank Gehry's first residential project in Asia. Frank Gehry is of course known for his museums, concert halls, and stunning private residences all over the world. Opus Hong Kong is no exception, and it's perched above Hong Kong with 365 views. So Opus Hong Kong is a 12-story building. It's actually pretty small, and you have one floor per apartment, which is always cool. Swire Properties, which is the developer that built it, sold the final unit in 2015, which was this unit, the penthouse unit, which is the 12th floor, for $66 million, and it is 5,400 square feet interior, so that's one whole floor, plus a 1,500 square foot rooftop, 2 car park spaces, and that's about it. Another apartment in the Opus sold back in 2012 for $58 million. So you can see every unit is pretty expensive. Number 9. Number 9 was sold for $75 million on 8 POLLOCK'S Path, which is on the Peak. So in 2011, the French government, which originally owned this property, cashed in on the red hot property market by selling it and then leasing it back. So this is an 11,000 square foot property that was sold at an average square foot price of 58,000 Hong Kong dollars, which divide that by 7, that's like 8,000 something US per square foot, making it one of the most expensive real estate transactions in the world at that time. The building sits on the top of the Peak and is a grade 2 listed historic building. So let's take a look at some of its history. 8 POLLOCK'S Path was originally known as The Ridge. It was built in the 1880s, 1890s, somewhere around then, so over a century-old house. The guy who first leased the land and built the house was a really well-known solicitor in Hong Kong, and he was a solicitor to the crown and blah, blah, blah. So clearly British appointed. And then it was sold to Wallace Harper, who is an American taipan and also had his own motor dealer firm. Have you heard of the term taipan before? Well, taipan was originally coined by the British to mean British heads of trading houses in Hong Kong. So for example, the heads of Jardine Matheson, Swire, HSBC, and then the term, kind of broadened to basically mean any foreign business tycoon, white business tycoon that was in China or Southeast Asia. It also means a highly venomous snake. Coincidence? In any case, 8 POLLOCK'S Path was bought by the French government in 1981, who had it as the official residence of the French Consul General, so very beautiful, and they owned it right up until they sold it in 2011 to cash in and then leased it back. But if they kept it today, they could have even doubled their money. Unfortunately, we're not able to find that many photos of the interior, so we're gonna check out their neighbor on 5 POLLOCK'S Path and take a look at their photos instead. And in fact, 5 POLLOCK'S Path, it was originally known as HEADLAND, but they never used a name. Everybody just called the Pink House. And this definitely merits being on the list itself because it was in 2017 sold, well, the house plus an apartment block, you know, on the same piece of land was sold for $410 million US. But what's most fascinating about the Pink House is that the same family lived in it for over 50 years, 50 years. Charles was an American lawyer, his wife Rosamond was a British artist. So in 2017, after Charles Brown died, his widow Rosamond Brown and her 2 sons decided to sell it. So they were bought by a company appropriately named High Grand Development, which is owned by Hong Kong businessman Yeung Yin-man. Yeung is also the owner of Beale Crystal Manufactory, which supplies screens for Apple and Samsung. Number 8. 103 million US dollars. The address is 10 SKYHIGH on POLLOCK'S Path. As you can see, POLLOCK'S Path, quite an address. So this was sold in 2011 and it is an 8,300 square foot house that was developed along with a couple other houses by the king of comedy, Stephen Chow, Zhao Xingqi, and Reoden Development. Have some of you watched Kung Fu Hustle? Have some of you watched Shaolin Soccer? Well, Stephen Chow is the king of comedy in Hong Kong and China. He directed both of those movies. And so Stephen Chow and Reoden Development did a JV which developed these houses and then sold them. And this house he sold for a whopping 103 million US dollars to Cui Shui-shun, who is the founder of Chengdu Songbai Xiantai Cemetery. So SKYHIGH is a plot of 4 houses that they developed. Number 10, number 12, number 16, number 18. And an interesting factoid about 12 POLLOCK'S Path is that was back in the 70s, the house of the HSBC Taipan. So that's the British guy that ruled HSBC. And it has stunning views of the harbor and all of, you know, Hong Kong skyline. So the thing about this house, number 10 SKYHIGH, that the cemetery guy bought is that it's considered diamond grade acid. And it's only a 20-minute drive from downtown city, so it's winding roads again. And in order to live here, you need to not just have money, but you need to have a strong fate. 你的命要足够的硬. And again, this is in Chinese feng shui or geomancy because it's on a very steep cliff. You need to have a strong enough fate in order to be able to handle the energy of living on that cliff. Number 7 sold for 105 million US dollars on 12 Peaks, which, yes, the name, it's on the peak. So 12 Peaks is an ultra luxury gated community of semi-detached houses, and its most expensive unit sold for 105 million. The interiors, each house has 3 levels, complete with private pool, front terrace, back terrace, internal elevator. There are 4 ensuite bedrooms, love ensuite. And there's a study room and a family room. It has great storage and one of my favorites, his and her closets in the master bedroom. And it also comes with 2 covered car parks and a rooftop terrace. What's fun is that these properties are sold in a 6-hour bidding window on Fridays between 1 to 6 p.m. Office break, anybody? Home number 6 was sold for 115 US dollars to Pansy Ho, and the address is 26 Gough Road up on the peak. So this house spans 5,500 square feet interior, has a private swimming pool, and the garden is 7,300 square feet. So at the time of transaction, back in 2018, this made Pansy Ho the owner of the 2nd most expensive home in Asia. For those of you who haven't heard, Pansy Ho, no relation to me, is daughter of Stanley Ho, who's considered the godfather of gambling. And he has 19, well, he had, because he passed away this year, he had 19 casinos in Macau. When he passed away this year, he gave his 58-year-old daughter Pansy $5.8 billion. And he has 4 wives who birthed him a total of 17 children. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. Number 5, 130 $50 million on 8 Mount Nicholson Road up on the peak. So 8 is a lucky number, guys. The Chinese number for 8, which is ba, sounds like fa, which means money. So, 8 means money, money, money. So as you can imagine, 8 Mount Nicholson Road, it's where all the money makers want to live. And in December 2018, a record in real estate in Hong Kong was broken when Lin Zhongmin bought 2 apartments side by side on 8 Mount Nicholson Road. So added together, it's a total of 8,800 square feet. And I mean, essentially, you're talking about a square foot price of $17,000. Lin Zhongmin is a bit of a mystery buyer because we can't find that much information on him. But let's take a look at Mount Nicholson Road. From 2015 to 2019, Mount Nicholson Road on the peak has actually had the highest price tag globally for an average home, with 35 transactions averaging 81 million each. And it's being mostly driven by mainland Chinese buyers. To give you a reference point, New York City's 57th Street, known as Billionaires Row, averaged in the same period of time 41 transactions with an average price tag of only 38 million, so nearly 1/3 of Mount Nicholson Road. 4. $180 million for number 8 Headland Road in Repulse Bay of Hong Kong. Again, check out the 8. 8 is a lucky number. In 2019, a paper tycoon, Raymond Lee, and his wife bought a 9 apartment complex in Repulse Bay for $180 million. Repulse Bay is known as a quieter money district, which is still just a 20-minute drive away from Central. Repulse Bay has one of the best beach lines in Hong Kong Island. So golden sand, lazy cafes, seafood restaurants. For a long time, this area's development was really just restricted to a few apartment buildings. But then in the 1960s, there was a rapid change where they began developing Repulse Bay as one of the most luxurious areas to live in, but at the same time maintaining its resort vibe. So nowadays, it's a land of luxurious villas and low-rise apartment buildings, with a couple high-rise, but that have spectacular views of the ocean and sunsets and nice restaurants. You can think of it as the Malibu or Hamptons of Hong Kong, but still just a 20-minute drive from the city. And in fact, Stanley Ho had a house here on number 1 Repulse Bay Road for a very long time, and he bought his 4th wife a house not far from him. Nearby Deepwater Bay is where Li Ka-shing, who is Asia's richest man, has lived. 3. $991 million on 22 Barker Road, which, that's right, is up on the peak. So allegedly, Jack Ma bought this property in 2015, but it's kind of mysterious because he's never officially confirmed it. When I hike up to the peak, and if you hike up to the peak, you can see it. It's on Barker Road, it's on the right-hand side, it's under construction, and you can't actually see the house, you just kind of see the gate and the beginning of the little path that winds down to his house. But it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for Jack Ma to own this property because first of all, he is worth $68 billion. And he has a lot of other properties, like a 210-acre vineyard in France. He has a $23 million house in the Adirondacks in New York, as well as, he still owns Lakeside Gardens, which is the place where he lived when he started Alibaba 20 years ago. 2. $270 million on 15 Gough Hill Road on the peak. So this was bought in 2016 by Shenzhen real estate property mogul Chen Hongtian. And it was a bit controversial because he did it in this kind of complex financial transaction that was a mix of cash and property. So he also transferred a commercial property in Shenzhen to the buyer. And this is controversial because a lot of people are saying these big ticket housing purchases by mainland billionaires is really just to move their money out of China. And hey, the following year in 2017, the Chinese government said, we're gonna restrict, financial outflow out of China. And so therefore, starting in 2017, you really saw an end to these huge, big ticket purchases for now. But what's more interesting is that he actually upgraded from number 10 most expensive house in Hong Kong on our list, the Opus Apartments that are designed by Frank Gehry, up to number 2 on our list with this house. Yes, he did. So he deemed the $50 million Opus Apartments that he paid 50 million for, that is 5,000 square feet. He called this too tiny. He said, we originally planned to move into that $50 million house, but it was too tiny for me and my family, and I realized that we'd eventually need more space anyway, so I just decided to buy this house. And this house is a 9,200 square foot house costing $270 million, which comes to about 29,000 US dollars per square foot. But what I like about this house is it's called 站北朝南, which is a term in Mandarin, and it means it's sitting north, facing south. And in feng shui, that's gold. That's the best kind of direction it can be in. And by the way, my house that we are in right now, here in Shanghai in the French concession, is also 站北朝南. So now we are coming to the #1 most expensive house in Hong Kong, which I'm actually going to split into 1A and 1B. The reason being that 1A was actually sold and 1B has been trying to sell itself for God knows how long and has not yet. So 1A, 320 million US dollars for a house on 75 Deepwater Bay Road. So Deepwater Bay is close to Repulse Bay, which we said was kind of like, you know, this resort vibey, quieter money district. And Deepwater Bay is like even more exclusive than Repulse Bay. There's just less homes available, you know, for sale. And in 2017, then 54-year-old mainland Chinese billionaire Pan Su-tong, he's the owner of Golden Financial. He paid 320 million US dollars. That comes to, on a per square foot basis, about 23,000 per square foot. And it is a 13,000 square foot house that has 3 stories, garden, private swimming pool. And you know what's kind of fun? I actually have met him before in Tianjin, because in Tianjin, which is northern China, it's about 3-hour drive north of Beijing. Scrap that. It's about like a 2-hour drive, depending on traffic, 2 to 3-hour drive north of Beijing. He opened a polo club as part of his real estate, you know, apartments that he was trying to sell. And so I've been there a number of times and I've taken my etiquette students there, and you know, we've met him, and you know, he looks like he was nice. But he clearly overpaid for a lot of assets because he overpaid for this house and he also overpaid for a lot of other properties, and now his business is kind of in big trouble. So he's been trying to get loans, and guess who gave him a loan? His next door neighbor who lived on 79 Deepwater Bay Road, just a few blocks away. It was formerly Asia's richest man, Li Ka-shing, who today he's kind of lagged behind now because all these tech billionaires have leapt over him, like Jack Ma's more rich than him now, but he himself, Li Ka-shing, is now worth $28 billion and lives in a palatial home that he built in 2013, where he lives with his oldest son now. And check it out, it's really cool because there's like a moat and a fence, an electric fence, and it's like up on a hill, and it's heavily guarded. So that's why it's really funny that in 2015, a 19-year-old mainland Chinese fugitive who had legally gone into Hong Kong then decided to burgle Li Ka-shing's house by climbing over the fence. I wonder how many fences he actually managed to make it before he was caught red-handed.
Make sure they get that. Push into that tunnel.
So yes, Pan Su-tong's in trouble now. He overpaid for stuff. And his house is probably up for sale. So if you want to be Li Ka-shing's neighbor, and if you want to spend a cool 320 million US, maybe you can even get it at a discount. So just now we talked about 1A that was sold, and now we're going to talk about 1B that's not yet been sold. And the reason it's not yet been sold is because it's asking for 657 million US dollars. I mean, that's why it's not sold. And the address is 24 Middle Gap Road, which is up on its way to the peak, but don't expect a palatial estate. It is built in 1991, so it has 4 bedrooms, it's 16,000 square feet of land, has a huge garden, a private swimming pool with amazing views, and you're surrounded in all this lush countryside. But, you know, then you have some dated 90s decor. And I personally think it looks a little creepy. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments below if you would spend 657 million US on this thing. But if it sold, it would break the record as the most expensive house ever in Hong Kong and Asia and maybe the world. But I think what the owner is saying that you're not really paying this for the house, you're really paying this for the land and the views. And I'm sure anybody who could afford to buy it will just, tear down the house and build something nicer. So you're probably asking, why is Hong Kong real estate so high? Well, firstly, I will tell you the reason that everybody will tell you. Number one, Hong Kong is an island and it's very small. Yes, there's a mainland section of it. It's a little bigger than the size of Manhattan and it's a little smaller than the size of LA. At the same time, 7.5 million people live in it, making it one of the most densely populated cities in the world. Number two, it's one of the most successful and developed economies and cities in the world and is also this access point for China. So it's the access point for Western guys to come into China and also the access point for Chinese guys to get out of China. Got it? Okay, so now I'm gonna tell you the reason that nobody will tell you, which is what all insiders know. Number one, when the British colonized Hong Kong over 100 years ago, they had this land tender system where they would sell land at a tender at a very high price. And this was so that they could extract as much profits as possible back to London. So for the whole time that the British had this 99-year lease of Hong Kong, land was always tendered off at a high price, especially in the last 20, 30 years. So since land is tendered out at a high price, then obviously real estate developers have to add on their construction cost and this and that and marketing, blah, blah, blah. So by the time it's handed over to the end consumer, it's expensive. So this continued until 1997, and then in 1997, when Hong Kong was returned to China, obviously because that system was in place for decades and decades, we just continued that system. So you had the handover in 1997, the same year we had the Asian financial crisis, and then in 2003, we had SARS. Yes, the flu virus, SARS. And that completely decimated Hong Kong's real estate. I think between like 1997 to 2003, Hong Kong's property market went down by 69%. Scary. So then Beijing was like, holy, Hong Kong's hurting, what can we do to help them? Well, for a mainland Chinese passport holder to come to Hong Kong, they need to apply for a visa. So Beijing was like, well, let's give our mainland Chinese citizens visas so they can go to Hong Kong, they can go there, they can eat, they can shop, they can spend, they can buy property, and that will help Hong Kong's economy. So Beijing's intentions were good, and it really helped. Hong Kong got back into shape in no time at all. But you have to remember that China is a population of 1.4 billion people and Hong Kong is a population of 7.5 million people. So all you need is a fraction of wealthy Chinese to come over to Hong Kong and spend. And it totally overwhelms Hong Kong's limited resources, whether it's our hospitals, our housing, our taxis, everything's just overwhelmed. There's a lack of supply. As a result, residential housing has gone up 6 times since 2003. On top of it, Hong Kong has amazing food, entertainment, culture. You can go hiking, you can go boating on the water, all within 20 minutes of the city. It's a place that people want to live in, especially mainland Chinese. And so you have people who are paying really high prices for tiny spaces, tiny apartments. The extravagant price tag of a nice Hong Kong home could likely fund an entire castle in Europe. All right, guys, we went through 10 homes. Tell me, what was your favorite? If you had the money, which one would you buy? And let me know what other cities you're interested in next, because I'm gonna keep doing this. Shanghai, Beijing, New York, London, let me know. And don't forget to click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be posting a new video each week who have tips and tricks that I think will help all of us lead a better life.